and also professional development workshops and materials that support teachers in their use of technology. Hi-C currently works with over 20 school districts nationwide. Dr. Soloway is not only very knowledgeable in the area of educational technology, but he's very inspirational as well. And it's my hope that as you leave here today, you take at least one new idea back with you into your classroom and integrate it into just one lesson plan. And so will you join me today in welcoming from the University of Michigan, Dr. Soloway.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Good morning. It is actually a privilege to be here on this first day of school. And it's very exciting, you know, in schools where all these rules are get passed and the nation is talking about standards and everything. And this morning what we did was we introduced people, because ultimately it's about people. It was actually, to me, that was very inspirational. I got my PhD in artificial intelligence and computer science. And I did work at Yale for a bunch of years, trying to work with computers, and then we had kids. And it dawned on me one morning that making kids smarter would be a much better use of my time than making computers smarter. So I stopped all that stuff. And I've been working to try and figure out how to take these boxes and wires and put them in schools and make it make some sense. I've been at this for over 20 years, and we're still working. We're still going at it, right? Because it isn't there yet. But I'd like to talk a little bit today about sort of some of the stories, some of the experiences that I've gone through, and try and think about what you folks are going to start to go through in this coming school year. Because Jeff and the crew are trying to make these kinds of things available and trying to figure out how to put these in and make this work. Because the kids these days, now some of you out there are the bifocal generation, right? I mean, or Perry Como generation, right? Most of you don't even know who Perry Como is, right? But we grew up and we heard this expression because our parents said it about us, kids these days, right? And basically, schools, you know, still look a lot like that, except that you got kids like this guy, right? And he changed the world. A 19-year-old built a system called Napster. Now, how many of you know what MP3 is? Raise your hands. Okay. MP3 is the format for digital music that you use on a computer. Now, I've asked this question over the last, I'd say, 3 years to teachers. And 3 years ago, pretty much no teacher knew what MP3 is. By the way, all the kids know what MP3 is. Right. And in fact, if you look at this picture, I was in the airport recently, and this is so great, right? The mother's reading the book, the boys are playing the Game Boy, and the father's reading the newspaper. Now talk about stereotypes, right? And that's what they're doing. Now you could say to the boys, put those Game Boys away and read. And they'll kind of look at you like, what are you talking about? What are you, no, I'm going to do this, right? And the interesting question, right, for this picture is, well, what if there were books on those little devices? Would the kids read? I have no data, but I believe that, in fact, the kids these days, if you put books on those things, that it doesn't have to be animated, jumping around characters, but you put things on there that they're interested in, they're going to read. Because those are their devices. That's what they're about, right? Kids have, you know, wires on their wrists and wires on their heads. They got mounds of batteries at home, right? Kids are about technology. And we can teach very well, thank you, without computer technology. We use, you know, whiteboard technology. We use chalk technology. And we've been doing that for thousands of years, and it's pretty good. But that misses the point. It's not about the fact that we can teach without the computer technology. Because if we go into a classroom and we say we're not going to use these computers, we're essentially telling the kids these days, you don't count. What you think is important isn't important. We're not going to use it in school. But if we try, on the other hand, if we try to bring what they value, what they think is important into the classroom, they'll take learning more seriously. They'll take us more seriously. Because they're saying, oh, what I do counts. Okay, so with that little beginning, let me tell you what I'd like to talk about. Talk about changes in K-12 education. The standards, the national standards, the state standards are changing, and saying, what do we have to do? Talk about the role of technology in supporting those changes. Give some examples, because that's how you learn, by some stories, and then tell you the little truths about technology, how difficult it is. Okay? So here we go. Okay, first off, I have been working for, well, the last 12 years now in science, okay, science education. I'm supported by the National Science Foundation. So we do science. If you're not a science folk, please don't turn off, okay? Right? I mean, it's not what this is about. If you look at the core subject areas, science, language arts, math, and social studies, they all have, I've got to get some water. Excuse me. A little dry. They all have national bodies. Math has the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, right? And they all have standards that say this is what the kids should learn. Now, I picked on science, but they all are saying, by and large, the same thing, okay? On the right are the standards, science education standards by National Research Council. The one on the bottom is Science for All Americans, put out by the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And the title is very interesting, Science for All Americans. When I came up during the Sputnik era, right? And what happened was when that Russian satellite came over and we saw the movie September Sky, right? Or October Sky, right? October Sky, right? And we saw the movie recently, and what it was about was the best and the brightest, right? And that was the term, right? You took the best and the brightest. And what did they do? They gave us an adult to talk to. They gave us a teacher who took us seriously, who listened to us and talked to us. It wasn't about AP. It wasn't about books and stuff like that. It was about some adult who said, I'm going to work with these kids, and I'm going to make them understand stuff. And I'm going to take them seriously. That was really an amazing experience. I got lucky. I was one of those kids. I was involved in that program. Now, what's interesting, right, is a bunch of kids, 10%, 20%, went into science and stuff. The rest of them became lawyers, right? And they went to Congress, right? And in fact, if you go to Congress today and you go to the legislatures, there's hardly any science people there. And if you try and pass science bills, what do we need science for? I'm doing just fine, and I didn't do very well in science. Same thing about language. Well, I didn't do so good in language, so my kids don't have to do language. It's not true. This book is about science for all Americans. It's saying it's not about the best and the brightest. That might have been fine 30 years ago. It's not fine today. We got to reach all the kids. All the kids got to have science. It's going to say something about math, reading. We got to do reading, right? On the left is the National Science Teachers Association. That's their National Science Teachers Association. They're about 100,000 membership. And Michigan has the Magosi program, which is the Michigan Goals and Standards. And I've taken one sentence that I think summarizes the change in the pedagogy. Forget about the technology for a second. Focus on the pedagogy. What is it that we're supposed to do in classroom? And this quote comes from the National Research Council, the one on the top right. And I think this epitomizes the change. Let me read it to you. Inquiry into authentic questions generated from student experiences is the central strategy for teaching science. Now, I'll repeat it because that's the way you learn, right? Inquiry into authentic questions generated from student experiences is the central strategy for teaching science. Now, substitute science for math, social studies, and language arts. Forget the fact that it's science. It talks about authentic questions. Well, what does that mean? Well, in the 60s, we had the notion that education had to be relevant, right? We used to watch body counts. We see body counts on TV, right? And then we would go to school, and nobody would talk about it because there was a complete divorce between what went on in the world and what went on in school. Well, that's just changed. We do talk about what goes on in life now in school. That's a dramatic change. What we saw, the young kids, the two groups of young kids, that was an amazing presentation. During our days, we would never have talked about that. That wasn't verboten. But now we talk about it, and that's important. The issue is in the 60s, the word was relevant. Now the word is authentic. goes around, comes around, right? It's the same thing. Except in the 60s, the kids had flower, power, and love. Now they pierce their eyebrows, right? They body edit, right? And, right? And if we talk about alienated kids, those are angry kids. I mean, you face them and you look at them and say, what are you going to do with them? You're going to sit across the dinner table from them. What are you going to do with them? Well, you're going to make them learn, because we know no matter how many piercings they got to learn, because they're going to have to get a job. And they're going to have to take care of themselves. We know that. They don't know that. They're kids. That's our responsibility to do that. And so, indeed, it's got to be authentic questions. It can't be, what are the different states of matter? It's a sleeper. They don't care. But, why does my school waste energy? That's an interesting question. We'll teach about, what is ozone? Another sleeper. But should I wear sunscreen? These are interesting questions. Why does the water in that tap taste different than the water in that tap? Those are kid questions. Those are questions that come from them. Those are not questions at the end of the chapter, because you know what they do with questions at the end of the chapter. Yes, yes, no, yes, no. They answer them as fast as they possibly can, because they don't care. It's not their questions. If they come from them, then they're motivated. So the first issue is authentic questions coming from them. The second issue is inquiry. And what inquiry is about is asking a question. Why do earthquakes stop? That's a 6th grade question. A 6th grader asked that question. Why do tornadoes happen in the afternoon? Another 6th grade question. Those are very good questions. And we have the notion of an OD question, an open, deep, and interesting question. If you ask a kid, come up with a science question. How far away is Jupiter? How many moons does the Mars have? They'll ask those kinds of how many, how far, etc., etc. Those are encyclopedia questions. You go to encyclopedia, look them up, and you give an answer. But why do earthquakes stop? Yes, that's an OD question. That's a hard question to ask. In fact, think about it. It's 11:30 in the morning. You got 36th graders right before lunch. How do you get them to ask an OD question? It's really hard. And in fact, of all the things I'm going to talk about today, the hardest thing that the teachers tell us is to get the kids to ask OD questions. To get them to go beyond the first question that comes to their head and really start to take it in and think deeply about what the content is, what the subject is all about. And then come up with a question that then they either go online, for example, and I'll talk a little bit about going online and using the internet to try and find resources for those questions. But asking a deep question, a meaningful question, that's hard to do. But that's what we're saying kids need to do. And it's the student experiences. It's got to come out of from them. If we can get kids to ask OD questions, authentic questions, then 3/4 of the battle is there, because they care. They're motivated. Now, how do you do that? It's hard. There is no question about it. And I'll talk a little bit about it. We have some instructional materials to help teachers think about how do you help the kids ask OD questions. But in particular, what is the role of technology in supporting kids doing that kind of inquiry? Well, it's actually, I think, very simple. Technology is about new opportunities to address age-old problems in education. Example, an age-old problem in education is reading. Kids got to learn to read and write. Kids got to learn to read and write. The kids got to learn to read and write. Got to do that. How does technology help them learn to read and write? Well, the data says the following. When the kids publish what they write on the internet, kids write more, kids write better. Huh? Why? They have an audience. They know that people are going to read that stuff, and they put their heart and soul into it, and they try and make it better. They know if the teacher's going to read it, it's hard. I mean, how are you going to read all your kids' papers and really do a good job editing them? It's very difficult. But if you get the class involved, see, I got to be careful here. It's not just about having kids publish or upload a web page willy-nilly to the internet. No, that's not what this is about. It's about us as teachers structuring it so that we set up essentially digital pen pals so the kids can learn how to critique each other's work, give constructive feedback, and then revise based on that feedback. For example, if you say to a kid, comment on your colleague's work, that sucks, right? Well, that's what a kid'll say. But that's unacceptable. That's disrespectful, and it's very unhelpful. No, our job as teachers is to help them learn how to critique each other's work so that, number one, the hearer, the writer can hear it. Yes, I can hear what you're saying, and I can take that in and make the changes. That's, again, a very difficult task. It's not about just uploading to the internet. No, it's about figuring out how to get kids to work together to critique each other's work. Now, you couldn't do this with pencil and paper. What are you going to do, make 30 copies of everything and hand it around? It just won't work. It has to be based inside the technology. Technology, computers, word processors make change cheap. I went to college, you went to college, you wrote the paper the night before, and you read it over, and there was a sentence that was yucky. You didn't change it, because you'd have to cut, you'd have to paste, the heck with it, you put it in, send it in. But if it's a word processor, you can make the change, no problem. Change is cheap with a word processor. We're fundamentally lazy, right? And if it's difficult to do something, you won't do it. But in fact, if the computer makes it a little easier to do, then you'll do. And the word processor is a very powerful tool. It's not a typewriter, because a typewriter makes change very expensive. Word processors make change cheap. Use word processors. So here's an example, published on the internet, where you have a new opportunity to address an age-old problem. The challenge is, what are more examples? What are examples that you'll use tomorrow? Not someday, but Monday. What are you going to use Monday in class to take advantage of the technology? Well, I'll give some more stories, but let me show you one that isn't a good example. I went to the internet again to say, excuse me, I went to a report that a friend of mine told me, this agency, the Software Information and Industry Association, a national organization, put out a report about technology. Digital trends shaping the digital economy, and you can see in the middle is education, anytime, anywhere. Usually when they have a report, education is at the bottom, right? So we made it up to the middle. That's pretty good, okay. So I went and I took a look at it because that's something that I do. And it says, education anytime, anywhere, how the internet changes education. Fair enough. What do they say? How is the internet changing education? Well, I read it and I read it. Oh, it's okay. The way I learn is through examples, through stories. So I looked at, they have case studies on the left. It says case studies, and there were two of them. One is Brainium.com and one is NetSchools Corporation. Well, I knew the NetSchools Corporation. It's a wonderful company. They make a laptop computer that could serve as third base. This thing is rock solid. There's no hard drive in it. So it is just, you could drop it and it's fine. You open the case up and you have an internet, wireless internet right there. Now they're a tad pricey, so not everybody's going to buy those things from NetSchools. But it is an amazing piece of technology. It really does work, and they have wonderful data that says when schools adopt this, not only does the kids' attendance increase, but the teachers' attendance increases. They enjoy coming to school because this stuff really does help them do their job. So I said, I'm not going to go to NetSchools. I know them. I'm going to go to Brainium.com. I never heard of them. It's a funny name. Let me see how the internet is going to change education. They gave me two examples. Let me see what Brainium.com does. Well, I went to their website, and then I clicked on a page that said for kids. And I got to this page. What is that? A TV set with a dog? What is that? I said, uh-oh, this is trouble. If I'm looking at a page on the internet about changing education, I have no idea what I'm looking at, this is not a good start. Okay, be patient, be patient. This is my strong suit, of course. So I went back again, and I looked at another page, and it said the Infomactor. Okay, Infomactor. Well, it says, earthquakes and volcanoes. Some changes on Earth's surface are spectacular. Hot, fiery stuff erupts out of a mountaintop. That's called a textbook. It's purple, but that's a textbook. Okay, well, nothing interesting there. We know about textbooks. So I clicked on another link, and I got a little animation. This is where the plate tectonics in the globe, where you see the purple on the actual computer, it kind of pulsates. Okay? You could try to illustrate that underneath is where the plates on the Earth come together, and they're rubbing there. That's not a tremendously powerful graphic. I didn't think that was, okay. I click one more click, and I got a worksheet. All right? So I said, oh my God, this cannot, this cannot change education. If this is what the internet is all about, we're busting our chops for a whole lot of nothing. We're not going to beat a textbook. If that's what it's about, delivery of textbooks, come on, we're not going to do it. There's got to be something more. Now, this I looked at maybe 6 months ago. I owe it to Brainium.com to go back and take a look. But I was really discouraged. I said, if this is what they're showing folks, this is not going to be very compelling. Okay, fair enough. So what are some more examples of new opportunities to address age-old problems? Let me tell you a little bit about it. Again, I'm going to use a tool from science because that's what I know about. And I'm going to show you a little video clip in a second. But we've developed a tool called Model It. And what Model It helps kids do is develop models of complex systems. For example, a stream ecosystem. The stream behind the school, the playground. For example, kids are eating the dirt out of playgrounds now, and they get lead poisoning. Why? Because of all the gas fumes from the cars have gone into the dirt and have settled in the dirt, and now eating the dirt gives them lead poisoning. The paint chip problem pretty much has gone away. Now they're getting lead poisoning from the dirt. Now, it's interesting, okay, it's interesting to build a model of that situation. And right next, this is a stream behind one of the schools we deal with. And right next to the stream is a golf course. And they put fertilizer on right before it rains, every time. And as soon as the rain comes, the fertilizer runs off into the stream, pollutes the stream, and wastes the fertilizer because it doesn't stay on the golf course. So the kids went to the golf course people and said, before you put the fertilizer on it, why don't you look at the weather report? Get away, kid, you don't know nothing. Kids do know something. They knew something. They showed them a model of what happens when it rains to the fertilizer. People didn't care. It's very sad, right? Because they didn't take the kids seriously. And you got to take the kids seriously. We know as teachers, it's hard sometimes when they got the green striped hair down the middle to take them seriously, right? But you got to take them seriously. They're trying in their own way. So we have built a program called Model It, which helps kids build models of complex systems. I'm not going to go into the program, but just to say there are techniques that we have used to help the kids build a model. And down at the bottom here is a model of how things interact. Rainfall gives off, if you have rainfall, then you have fertilizer runoff. Fertilizer runoff increases the nitrates in the stream. Increases of the nitrates impact the growth of the bacteria in the stream. Bacteria, blah, 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 blah. That model was built by 2 ninth-grade girls in 5 50-minute periods. I emphasize 5 50-minute periods because time is tight in school. And you can't spend 3 weeks doing something. 5 50-minute periods you're willing to give if a kid can understand the complexity of a stream. Let me show you now a video clip, very short video clip, of a young lad in 7th grade, and he was building models of the weather. How does the weather feel to me? This is, we're working in Detroit, one of the schools in Detroit. And I just want you to, you don't have to look at the science, that's not what the clip is about. It's about how this kid carries himself, how he presents his work to the class. And the first part of the clip, there's a narrator and you sort of don't have to really listen and pay much attention. But just watch and look at this kid and listen to this kid's voice. Just take a second here. Okay, you can do it. You can do it. Maybe you can't. Oh, maybe you can't. Look at that. Hold on. This is a new computer for me. Let's try this. Sound? Sound? This never happened to you. Using technology in the classroom, not working? Well, it's my fault. You guys, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And the guy's up there saying, he turned off the sound. I did. I turned off the sound. I didn't want the clicks. Okay, just a second. This is the trouble with it, right? Right. Because it doesn't really work. And you have a choice. It doesn't. I know. Right. I know. Right. You got 30 kids in a lab. Something doesn't. What's the probability that one of those computers is not going to work? No offense, Jeff. Pretty much 100%. I'll come to that later. But this is good. It's good. Right, now.
Sunlight is hard to learn. Air temperature is cold and water humidity is low. And when it's a lot of clouds, amount of sunlight is a lot. What you do that for?
I'm about to go check this, make sure that they're right.
It's not right.
That's right.
After they construct their scientific models, the students present and demonstrate them to the class.
We are now going to test our model. As the amount of clouds increases, the amount of sunlight decreases, which makes the temperature decrease, which makes the pressure increase from low to high, which makes the wind speed decrease. The humidity affects how we feel, because if the humidity is high, then we feel all sticky because of the water vapors in the air. And if the humidity is high, the probability of precipitation is high.
The probability of precipitation. Now, it's not clear what he understands about probability of precipitation, but he understands that the water vapors make you stick. He understands the interactions of a whole lot of elements. Okay? If I had a nickel for everybody said, those kids can't do those kinds of models. They can't do that kind of science. I'd be a rich person today. I mean, there's a racist argument. There's an ageist argument. Kids can't do that kind of science. Baloney. They can all do it. It's hard. It's demanding. But all the kids can do that kind of science. Well, coming back, we're working on a project for the last 4 years now called the Center for Learning Technologies in Urban Schools. We work in Chicago. We work in Detroit, trying to figure out how to put the technology into the classrooms, integrate it into the curriculum, so that when the money goes away, it still sticks, right? When there's money to make it happen, when it's new, okay, we'll give it a shot. But when the money, which invariably does, goes away, how does it stay? How do you integrate this? Jeff started out by saying, this year his goal is for you folks to do one new thing with the technology. That's a very easy goal. It's not a very demanding goal. It still is hard. It's still going to be hard for you. But it's not an onerous goal. And if you do one, then you feel good about it, and you'll do another one. And you know, the first one might not work so good, because you know the first time you ever do an instructional activity, it doesn't go quite right. You haven't kind of figured it out yet. And the next time around, you sort of figure it out. And by the third time, now you got it, right? That's what happens, right? That's how difficult this stuff is. We take science seriously. We say that all the kids can learn science. Science for all Americans, all the kids. It's not dumbed down science. It's not science for thugs. It's all the kids. We believe in this pedagogy, this project-based, inquiry-based pedagogy. It's straight John Dewey. Don Dewey talked about the expression is you learn through doing. It's not quite what he said. He said you learn through direct experience. For example, you take a thermometer, you put it in the stream, you take it out, and you look at the temperature. It's a temperature. You take the same thermometer, you put it in the stream, you take it out again, and it's a different temperature. And you watch the kid's eyes. Oh my God, I thought I put it in it's the same thermometer, the same stream, but it's a different temperature. Well, is it the same stream? Is it the same water? Hasn't the water flowed through? Did you get it at exactly the right depth? Maybe you had it at a different depth, etc., etc., etc. By that experience of seeing two different temperatures for the thermometer blows their mind. Because they start to think about that when the weatherman on the TV says it's 48 degrees outside, what does the number 48 mean? Where was that number taken? How many different numbers were used to compile that 48 degree? What time was it taken? Etc., etc., etc. It's the direct experience, and then it's the reflection on the direct experience. Why did I get that? Why did I do that? And that's what inquiry is about. It's about doing something, having a question, doing something, and then thinking about what you just did. You know, my mother used to yell at me, think about what you just did, right? Oh, yeah, right. Right. Absolutely. And that's the kind of pedagogy we're talking about. We also believe in the use of technology, pervasive use of technology. Kids using a computer, my daughter in Ann Arbor uses a computer 1 hour a week. 1 hour a week. It's not enough. It's not enough. I mean, we know time on task is a core educational prerequisite. Kids got to spend sufficient, substantial time doing what they're doing. Otherwise, it doesn't work. When we heard about reviewing this morning, absolutely, you got to review. An hour a week? Nah, it's not going to do much. Now, they'll have a good time, it's not a bad thing, but they're not going to learn deeply by an hour a week. We have to integrate it. We have to make it pervasive. That's very hard to do. I know scheduling that lab is difficult. I know that you got 2 computers at the back of your room, and how do you get the class management so that the kids can rotate back there? These are hard, hard problems. There's nothing easy about this. But yet, what's the alternative? Oh, we won't use computers. No. That alternative is simply unacceptable. That's not what the kids are about. That's not what the future is about. That's not what their future is about. We have to figure out how to do this. So let me talk a little bit about the internet now, because the internet is a technology that you have in your schools, and that is sort of the ripest technology to sort of use. Now, I like magazine covers. I travel a lot, and so I look at magazine covers. I buy them. The Family PC for $1.99 proclaimed it was a brand new web. I was a little offended because that's my business, and I didn't know it was a brand new web. So I bought it, and I read it, and they were right. What this particular issue was about was all the people listening to radio on the internet. How many of you listen to radio on the internet? Look at that. That's a lot of folks listening to the radio on the internet. Do you listen to international stuff? Yeah, international stuff, absolutely. Because you can get access to international stuff on the internet. That's boggling. 2 or 3 years, 5 years, what's the number? There's not going to be radio. Radio will be the internet. And I was impressed. Then, about 6 months ago, Fortune says, the future of the internet. Everything is about to change again. No, it's changing again? Okay, again? I've never seen 2 guys look like that. You know anybody who looks like that? Where did you get those guys? And then recently, rethinking the internet yet again. Well, there's a technology called fire. Fire has been around for 3,000 years. There's a danger to fire. We got a lot of forest fires now out there, right? But fire, by and large, has withstood the test of time. We like fire. Now, there's a technology called the Edsel, right? There's a technology called Betamax. Those have not withstood the test of time. The question is this: is the internet closer to fire or to the Betamax? Well, 2 years ago, you could have said, it could be a Betamax, could go away. You cannot say that today. It's fire. It's going to withstand the test of time. It will endure. Not only will it endure, it will grow. Now, we know education has the solution du jour, right? Every year there's another way to think about it, right? In Ann Arbor, they're doing brain stuff now. I think you eat a donut before the test, or sometimes they tell you to eat the donut after the test. I can never remember which one it is, because somehow the sugar interacts. You can weather that one, let that one go away. You know, that one will go. Next year we'll get rid of brains and we'll work on another problem. This one is not going to go away. Jeff said it. We got the technology, 130 new computers. It's not going to go away. This is here to stay. We got to figure out how to do it. I mean, the state is giving out computers. That's amazing, right? That's amazing. They're giving out computers. Took them a while to figure out how to do that. A long time, in fact. But they did it, okay? And they gave out computers. You got to figure this out. You can't weather this one. You can't wait till this one goes away. The internet is fire. Now, how do you use the internet? Well, before we get there, what could the internet be? Right. Well, in the 1700s, there was a guy named Diderot, French guy. And he and his buddies, they called him the encyclopedists because they understood human nature. They understood, like my son, my teenage son. He'll have a carton of milk, and wherever his arm is, the carton of milk goes down. Right? If it's on the edge of the table, it's the edge of the table. It's in the middle of the table, the middle of the table. His wingspan defines his universe. Right? Whatever it is, that's all it is. Right? But it defines your universe too, right? You're sitting on the couch and a question arises. You know you have a book downstairs that has the answer. What's the probability that you're going to get up and go down and look at the book? 0. You're going to guess. Because it's not within your wingspan. It's not ready at hand. The internet is ready at hand. what Diderot understood is if he can put all the information in the 1700s, you can get, a couple of volumes, then the 7 rich people in the world could have all the information ready at hand, right? But that's not what it's about. But they understood human nature. The internet, right? The internet is the new encyclopedia. But it's uneven. That's a nice way of saying it, right? You type volcano into a Google or something, or some search engine, you're going to have 50,000 hits sorted alphabetically. You got a 50-minute period. What are you going to do with 50,000 hits? What is a kid going to do with 50,000 hits? If you search, the other day we were searching for lapis lazuli, a rock, right? Well, it turns out there's the lapis lounge. And the first 10 hits, you don't even want to read, let alone look at the pictures. I mean, what the descriptions were. I'm thinking, the kids are going to go home, tell their parents what they did in school today. I'm going to go to jail, right? Oh, no. And if you search on the word stormfront, one word, you think you're going to get weather? American Nazi Party. You get the hate quote of the week. You get swastikas. I don't want my 12-year-old daughter staring at swastikas. I don't like it. It's very disruptive. And if you got 30 kids all on the internet, or 15 pairs of kids, probably more likely, 15 pairs of kids on the internet, what's the probability that somebody's going to stumble on one of those things? 100%. You will have it happen to you. And then you got to figure out what to do. And it takes a lot of energy to focus. And if you don't know, if you got a lesson on world history for the French Revolution, you better know what's out there, because you better know what those kids are going to see. And that makes a lot of burden on you to be doing all those searches for hours before the kids get into the lab, because you know that they're going to find stuff. And then you better be able to help them figure it out. That's really hard to do. It's really, really hard to do. And what about copy-paste with plagiarism? Actually, we've asked teachers. They don't even so much, you folks don't so much worry about the pornography. You worry about the plagiarism, because it becomes absolutely easy to copy-paste. And you can't tell. Well, usually you can tell, right? Mickey could have written that, right? But that's a real problem. And how do you get kids through that problem? The internet is really demanding. It's really hard to use. So, what do folks do? When we look at what people do with the internet, they use the internet like they use a textbook. Well, let me back up. When Edison invented the motion picture camera, they pointed it at theater first. Because, well, there's some people up there doing some stuff, so take the people doing stuff and put it on film, on motion pictures. Not a bad idea, okay? But then Hollywood came along and said, no, you've got the wrong idea. This is a new genre. Movies are a new genre. We can tell a new kind of story with film. We don't want to take the old story, theater, and put it on the film. Engineers like me, we invent motion pictures. Hollywood invents movies. I'm going to take a book and put it on a CD-ROM. And, I bought for my daughter Dr. Seuss's ABCs, Annie's Alligator, AAA, right? Amazing book, right? They took it and they put it on a CD-ROM, and they got Aunt Annie jumping up and down on the alligator. And my daughter, when she was looking at it when she was young, she said, why is she doing that? It doesn't help the story any. I mean, it's not interesting, it's gratuitous animation. I don't know. What's interesting is they sell you the CD for $29 and they give you the book. Why are they doing that? Well, again, it's the first pancake. When you make pancakes, right, the first one is just to figure out what the griddle's all about. Well, we're still at the first pancake stage, folks. We ain't there yet. We haven't figured it out. What we're doing is we're taking new technology and we're mimicking old technology. So, for example, we have things called web quests. And what web quests are about is, kids, here's a question. Kids, here's some URLs, some addresses on the internet. Go to those addresses and answer this question. We've seen that movie before. It's called Questions at the End of the Chapter. And even though it's the internet, the kids treat it as questions at the end of the chapter. And they'll, yes, no, right? They'll just answer the questions. But, it's not so bad. If that's where you start there. It makes good sense to take it does make sense to start with, take new technology and mimic old, just to feel comfortable with it, just to know how it works. Where are the hot buttons? What will work, what doesn't work? Start there. Do web quests. Absolutely. If you go to www.webquest.org, they'll give you all kinds of stuff. Thousands and thousands of teachers are using web quests. But then, it's still, to me, it's, again, you're delivering an electronic textbook. It's not so bad, but that's not what this is about. We changed it a little bit. We exploit the new technology. And what we do is we have the kids ask the question. That's the key difference between what we do and sort of the web quests. That we have the kids ask the question. Now, if you think about it for a second, you have a school media center, librarian, and you have an assignment. And the kids troop down to the library because you've told the librarian the kids are coming down because they're going to do world history or some other subject. And the librarian has put together a shelf of books. Great. Basically, there's a set of questions at the end of the chapter that all the kids are going to try and solve, and those books are going to be there. But can you imagine 15 pairs or 30 kids all tromping down with their own OD question? Do you have a book about why earthquakes stop? No, I don't have a book like that. No library could have books with 30 questions of that ilk. No school library, no town library could have it. The only resource is the internet. The only place you're going to find the breadth of material to deal with the diversity of questions is going to be the internet. So once you make the switch between having the kids, between giving the kids the questions and having the kids develop the questions, it's a huge change. It's a huge change. It's not a little change. It's a big change. And you need the internet to provide them with the resources. So we don't actually have the kids on the internet, searching the internet. We have built the Artemis Digital Library. We have built a digital library. Other folks have built a digital library. I'll tell you about ours. You can actually use ours tomorrow. It's free. Right now it's free. You can use the digital library. Other companies have it. Other places have it too. What we've done is do what librarians do. You build a collection. We have 4,500 websites that we know are good. They're safe. They're relevant. So if a kid searches on Comet, you'll come up with 5 or 10 hits. But we know those are good 5 or 10 hits. Now you click on it and you go out to the internet. So you are on the internet. But you don't search the internet. You search our digital library. And we have curriculum materials. It's not a search engine. We talk about a research engine. We have curriculum materials where there are 6-day units where you start out developing an OD question. And then you have different steps in the process, ending with some sort of presentation or final report over those 6 days. It is authentic inquiry, kids asking questions. And we've been focusing more on middle school, so the science and the language arts teams work together because the kids are writing. I don't know how many science coordinators have said, you want kids to write? That's not science. That comes out of the language arts budgets. Don't try and tell me that I got to give science days to that. Now, you've never heard that before, I'm sure. Right? But it is a problem. You got a fixed number of days. How are you going to do it? You got to work together. So let me show you the Artemis Digital Library. When the first screen comes up, it gives you a set of content areas. And we have matched this to the Michigan standards. I'll give you the URL in a second, okay? We have matched this to the Michigan standards. We know what the different grades have to do in the different content areas. And here is the digital library. Right in the middle, you type your keyword, Schumacher-Levy, type of comet. And you do search. You say go. And you only found 4 hits. Only 4. Those are 4 good ones. We know what those 4 are. We put them in there. And we have a team of 3 or 4, it depends on the time of year, 5 librarians and science people, and now we're actually doing social studies, who work to make sure that those links are live and they work. But we've watched kids on the internet doing research, and we know where they have problems. So we built scaffolds into the digital library to help them over those rough spots. What teachers do is scaffold. We structure it so that when the kids hit a wall, we can get them over the wall, and then we take the scaffold away as they develop their expertise. That's what we do. So we can build some of those scaffolds into the software. An example. They get some hits. If you use a Google or your Hooligans or any of the search engines, you get hits and they go away. Tomorrow they're gone. You got to do it again. No, you have to save them. So if you click save, it goes into your driving question folder. So we have a driving question folder. Will a comet crush the Earth? That's a reasonable 6th grade question, right? And if you say save, it will put that hit there. And if you click on that folder, it'll tell you its hits. So you can go home at night if you have a computer. You can go home and look at your hits at night. You can go to the school media center where there are computers and carry on with your work. It persists. That's a scaffold. Another example, share. Kids like to share. If they found a cool site, they want to share it with somebody else, and then they want to make comments about other kids' shares. So if you click share, that gets posted so the other kids can look at it. A very important thing. I'll show you in a second. On the right are some more scaffolds. A thesaurus. Kids don't know that flooding and erosion are very similar. They run out of key words. They don't know what to type if they don't get any hits. We have a thesaurus right there. We have a spelling dictionary and a definition dictionary right there, etc., etc., etc. So we've structured it, not too much, because you don't want to take the fun out of it, but you want to give some scaffolds so the kids can use those scaffolds. Notice at the bottom right, there are other terms. They automatically come up based on your term. Because the kids, they need some help. They need some help. So, second, well, let me show you. When they click on a link, because kids just click, 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 right? I mean, click, click, click. That's what they do with their thumbs, right? And if you click on a link, what it takes you to is this intermediate page where we have written a summary of what's on that page, an advanced organizer. We want to slow the kids down. We don't want them click, click, go to the web page. No, slow down. Think about what you're about to see. Think about how it relates to your driving question, and then go to the page. That's a scaffold. This is your driving question folder. You can put notes right there in your driving question folder for your sites. Again, we've thought about it, and we've redesigned some of this. Actually, we've got a new version coming up now. But, oh my God. I don't know how that happened. We have some web pages. We have some web pages that, again, help the kids structure what they do. Let me show you the sharing stuff. Yes, a couple more minutes. Let me show you the sharing stuff. Because certainly for middle school, this is important. Maybe high school, you don't have to do this. For middle school, getting the collaboration going is important. So they're going to post the question. They type their name, they pick the partner's name, their hour, school, etc. Here are some questions that were posted recently. Could Jupiter become a star? What makes the planets their color? What do comets look like when they are passing by the sun, and why? What are the most recently discovered planets outside the solar system? Why do some planets have more moons than others? Etc., etc., etc. Look at the diversity of those questions. Those are sixth graders, like 6th or 7th graders. Okay. This particular teacher has been working with us for 4 years. He knows how to get the kids to ask questions. Not all of them are Odie. I mean, some of them are just, some of them, no. But most of them are pretty good questions that kids have posted. And then they can make comments about the kids' questions, etc., etc. Very, very powerful. Another thing powerful, when they share a driving question, it goes to the top of the list. So the first thing the kids do when they post is go and they look. And they say, I'm at the top of the internet. Motivation-wise, that's very powerful. Because they see themselves on the internet. And that, to them, says, hey, I'm cool, I can do something. And that helps them keep going. Well, we have curriculum units. Activity sheet 9 for use during session 6. Now, that might be a little too structured for your tastes. But maybe to start, it's not a bad thing to do. Follow the curriculum. Do what it says. The second time you do it, you change it. But the first time, you follow it. One of the coordinators, science coordinators in a district that I won't name, was very skeptical that the kids would be able to ask Odie questions, open, deep, and interesting. But then he surveyed the teachers, and he said at the end, the use of student-developed driving questions to focus student searches is a major successful feature. It works. It does work. It's hard to do. It works. Well, here's the website, www.webartemis.org, and if you go there, you can sign your class up tomorrow to use this thing. It tells you how to set it up. We have teacher tools. If you sign in as a teacher, you can see what all the kids did that day, right? You want to know what's in their driving question folder because, you got 30 kids out there, And the two boys in the corner, they're quiet. But what are they doing, right? And you know, they're quiet, so you don't attend to them because they're not causing trouble. But who knows what they're doing? So you want to see at night, quickly, what they got. We have teacher tools for you. Eventually, we're working with this company to publish this thing. The only way to do this is to figure out how to make a subscription model, because you can't make this free. Free doesn't work. We're old enough to know there's no such thing as a free lunch. Right now it's free because we're paid for by the National Science Foundation. But at some point, some company is going to sell this thing. Now, right now it's free, but we're working with this company to sell it. Let me end this section by saying the following. The digital library stuff they're working on is standards-based. It's curriculum-driven. It's technology-intensive. It really does exercise and use the technology. It gets teachers to collaborate. That's a good thing. And, you know, the word library generally has a positive connotation. I know you got to be quiet in the library, and for some kids, that's hard. But library generally has a good connotation. Digital has a good connotation. Digital library, that's the place to start. I'll be honest. I showed you that Model It program at the beginning. That's not the place to start. It's really demanding. It's really hard to use. You got to really know the science. It's hard to get the kids to do it. Once you get going, it's okay. That's not the place to start. This kind of thing, this searching, the web quests, you don't need a digital library. Go to WebQuest, www.webquest.org. Use their stuff. Start with them. If you want to use this, you could use this. It's not that hard to get into. There are curriculum materials, tells you what to do. Well, let me end with a couple more slides. And now the truth. Integrating computational technologies into the classroom, your classroom, is the most challenging educational innovation in the last 200 years. Just use the computer. Just use the computer a little. No, it's not about using the computer. It's about changing your pedagogy. It's about having the kids get up and walk around and talk to each other. We have classes, we work in Detroit. Teachers don't want the kids to get out of the chairs. This stuff doesn't work. The kids got to get up out of the chairs and they got to talk to each other, because some kids become expert at some things and then they help each other. It's the only way this is going to work. Your pedagogy, your classroom management strategies change. If you're going to do this effectively, it's really hard. Now, we have a snapshot survey. If you go to there, snapshotsurvey.org/Hazlitt, about 90 of you, about half of you have taken this survey. The other half, please take the survey. What it's about, it's asking, basically it's taking your temperature. It's taking a snapshot of your technology skills, your needs, your beliefs, your uses. We're going to do this again, the survey again, in May. And I'm going to come back in May and give another presentation based on these data. I'm not going to tell you what's so far, because I don't want to, I don't want to spoil it. But if you do this now, we'll have a snapshot of what's going on in the district. And what Jeff and his colleagues are going to try and do is help you this year, move you along so some things change. And we'll take the temperature again in May, and then I'll come back and we'll talk together about what happens. It's hard. If you work with Jeff and his colleagues, it will work. If you do it by yourself, all alone, it's going to be a struggle. It's a struggle. Because you saw me, and I had all these people helping me, and it didn't work because I didn't do a setting right. And it happens to you all the time. Okay, with that, so please do go to that. It takes about 15 minutes, right, for people who've done it. It takes about 15 minutes to do it. It's not a particularly onerous task, but it's very, very valuable data. Well, let me end with the following. You've heard a guy named John Glenn, the astronaut. He's also a senator. And Clinton, at the end, appointed John Glenn to a commission to fix K-12 education. He said to John Glenn, you've done everything. Now, your swan song is fix American education. That's a hell of a task. And part of it was that America's kids scored very poorly on what's called the TIMSS, the Third International Math and Science Study, where they compared, what the Bulgarian kids did with what the American kids did, for example. You know, there are 8 Bulgarian kids taking the test. The curriculum focused on the 9 concepts on the test. And you know, the Bulgarian kids do a lot better than the American kids. I don't want to get into that. The politics of that test is amazing. The politics of tests in general are pretty amazing. We'll talk a little bit about it. But Glenn formed this commission. And the slide I'm about to present to you is the slide that I presented to him, Ted Kennedy, and a bunch of other guys at this meeting where they said, tell us about technology. Tell us what we should do about technology. What was interesting about the Glenn Commission was the focus was on teachers. And they have actually put out a final report. And their final report says, we've got to figure out, we don't know how to do it quite, but we've got to figure out how to prepare the teachers better. And we've got to figure out about how to get them more support. We're tired of hearing stories about what technology has done for kids. You can all tell a story about what one kid did with a computer, right? Everybody has such a story. In some sense, it's not interesting anymore. We know that. What we don't know is how to take a district, a school district, and move it from September to May and change that snapshot survey. It's just trying to say we don't know. We know some of the things how to do it. Providing access, providing training, providing curriculum materials. But that's a real challenge. And the Glenn Commission said that is the educational challenge. That's it. We've got to figure that one out. It's interesting. Glenn did believe. I talked to him afterwards. I mean, it was pretty intimidating standing in front of all those guys. Most of them were guys. Well, there were a couple of women, but most of them were guys. And it's pretty intimidating because, you know, Glenn, an austere, tall guy, really tall. But talking to him afterwards, he's a good guy. He believes that all kids can learn. He really does believe that it's about all kids. And I thought, you know, maybe really, no, it's about all the kids. Look at this one. Your system is low on virtual memory. Look at this. I love it. Windows is increasing the size of your virtual memory paging file. During the process, memory requests. What the hell are you talking about? My students set this computer up for me. And the techies, these kids are techies, right? Look, these are the kids that know stuff. And look at that. I'm going to kill them. I was going to kill them. Look at that. I love it. I love it. Close that. Let's let that go. This is an extraordinary goal, to teach all the kids. It's not about the 8 smart kids in Bulgaria who are good at math. It's not that what it's not. This is not what it's about. It's about all the kids. They all got to be able to read. They all got to know science. They all got to know their history. They all got to do it. It's not about 8. And the model talked about was little plus little equals nothing. That's the new math, right? In education, we've always put a little money and put a little money, and nothing will happen with a little money. Education, public education, is this huge enterprise that has a tremendous inertia. And if you want to change the direction of that train, you got to put a big bunch of money in. And you got to sustain it. You got to say, we're going to go with the program. We're not going to change every year. If you change every year, it won't happen. It just won't happen. This stuff is too difficult. You have an extraordinary goal. We have to take extraordinary measures. Right now, I'm looking at education that we're trying to change education with a stick, this testing stuff. In Detroit, in the second semester, winter semester, they administered 3 standardized tests to these kids. Every 6 weeks, there was another standardized test. It destroyed, right? It destroyed the semester because you were preparing for the kids for the test and you couldn't do your regular curriculum. And every time you got some momentum, you had to stop doing the curriculum because, in fact, there was a mandate, stop doing the curriculum and prepare the kids. Because all the data says that the kids are prepared to take the test and do better on the test. Duh, right? Right. So you'd be nuts not to help the kids get ready for those tests because that's what helps. But it screwed the whole semester up. And I don't see it really changing. Why did they need 3? Was 2 enough? Was 1 enough? 3. Now, I don't know what you do here. Far be it from me, I don't know what you do here. But I'll tell you in Detroit, it really, really was painful. And you watch the teachers it just ripped them up. Because they knew what they wanted to do with the kids. They knew what they needed to do with the kids, but they couldn't do it. I think we need to think another way of doing it. it's a carrot, right? Now, again, the bifocal generation, I'm not old enough to remember this one. I remember, but I've been told about this one, the GI Bill. When the boys came back from World War II, America passed the GI Bill. And the GI Bill was saying, look, you folks stopped your careers, you went to fight for America, now America's got to pay you back. And the way we're going to pay you back is we're going to invest in your education. And that GI Bill was an amazing event. It took a lot of people, put them back into school, and after World War II, our economy, well, you know what our economy is. It is the greatest in the world. Today, America is richer than it's ever been. Oh, we have a little dip now. We watch every day the stock market up and down. This is noise. We have been an unprecedented growth in terms of status, in terms of living conditions. America is very rich right now. And in large measure, it's due to education. And so what we need is a post-Cold War GI Bill. And we need you folks, we need teachers. And we got to figure out how to take the money that we have. We have the money. It's not an issue about not having the money. We've got the money. Education can do this. And figure out how to do preparedness of the pre-service folks and the in-service folks and the folks who retired. Bring them back. Let them help the kids. Well, a lot of people help the kids. We know that student-teacher ratios make a huge, huge difference. And there's different strokes for different folks. Different kinds of kids need different kinds of adults to help them. But we know that adults help kids. And the real issue is, if not now, then when are we going to do this? When are we going to make a decision in America to really support education? If we don't do it now, it's an amazingly lost opportunity. Now is when we have the money. We're beginning a new school year. You're beginning a new school year. You could sort of say to yourself, this year I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to change. I'm going to try to use this stuff, even though I get error messages like that, even though I know it doesn't work, even though I know it's not going to be quite right. But I'm going to risk. I'm going to take a risk, and I'm going to try it. And I'm going to go get some help. I'm going to talk to Jeff. I'm going to talk to people around him. And we're going to go get some help. And we're going to try and use this technology. And when it doesn't work, or when it works sort of, I'm going to say, I need some more resources. I need some more help. And while a government national GI Bill is not going to help you tomorrow, your folks will help you tomorrow. If there's a commitment to use the technology, there'll be a commitment to bring the resources to bear to make this stuff work. Take Jeff's admonition seriously. Do one thing with this technology. Do one thing, feel good about it, and then try it again. Because you know the first time it doesn't work. Have a wonderful year. This is a great first day. Go with God. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Elliot. That was an excellent presentation, and I really hope that it does make a difference, and I really feel it will. So thank you once again. We're going to take a 15-minute break right now and then come back for the next part of the program. Thanks.